Welcome in to Pro Football Today on a Saturday.
Wow.
Just like the NFL likes it. Kevin Walsh with Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi here as we get you set for Week 18 in the National Football League. It honestly feels a little weird that it's a Saturday and we haven't already played about 3 or 4 games of NFL already, Lisi, but we're about to get underway before the postseason officially begins.
Yeah, and we have 2 games that'll dictate the AFC North. We have Cleveland taking on Baltimore. Cleveland has lost 5 straight heading into this matchup. Baltimore, we saw them play on Christmas, dominates Houston 31-2. They've won 3 straight. Can that offense get going with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson going up against a bunch of backups? And then Cincinnati, can they maintain that consistency to get into the playoffs and win their 5th straight, Donnie? We'll see how it plays out.
Look, sometimes the NFL, we bag on them a lot for some of the decisions that they do make. They're making the best of this Week 18 to make most of these games as important as they could possibly be, which includes the 2 football games today. Now, when we say important, Joe, right?
Yeah.
20-point line, we think it's going to be an easy victory for Baltimore. We have a pretty good Saturday night football game in Cincinnati and Pittsburgh with a lot of meaning on the line for both of those teams. Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh saying they want to get the stink off from there and get a victory before they head into the playoffs. Now, they already are going, saying, why would they play any of their starters tonight? You want that 5th seed because you want to play Houston. You don't want to fall back and get the Baltimore Ravens once again, Joe.
Yeah, that'll play out. We'll see. First time they played Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, what did they get? 75 points. We saw Russ throw for 414. We also saw Joe Burrow light it up for basically 300. If they get that type of productivity today, could be fireworks and over the 48.5.
So the guys kind of allude to it there just to kind of set the stage for what these 2 games in the AFC North mean today. The Ravens will go first. They are a 19.5-point favorite. Arguably more important, they are minus 4,000 currently on the money line. A win for Baltimore will cash the division crown once again. Certainly a crown that I thought was vulnerable preseason and certainly was throughout the year with the Pittsburgh Steelers a few times popping up as the favorites. But the Ravens have found themselves now in control of their own destiny, and in a massive way, they are one of the biggest favorites we've seen in the last half-decade, the biggest favorite up until this point of the NFL season. So a win for Baltimore means what for Pittsburgh? As Donnie alluded to, the seeding is important. The Steelers can't just tap out and say, you know what, we'd love to play the Ravens again in Baltimore. Yeah. But it isn't the end-all, be-all. Also, we know that. And let's just say the Ravens end up playing a closer game than people project against the Browns. Maybe you could get a rest up, a bit of an advantage there. The other end of this is the most shocking upset of all time seemingly happens, which for me I actually think would be incredible just because of the drama. And then Pittsburgh would need to beat Cincinnati for the division. Easier said than done. The Bengals have their postseason lives on the line in that game tonight on the road, and that's part of the reason they are 2.5-point favorites. Now, the tough bit, and what would be, I think, sad for a lot of people is Cincinnati doesn't control their own destiny at all. It's not win and Denver loses to Kansas City. You still need Miami to lose. Anybody want a Tyler Huntley playoff game? We could be certainly rearing towards that. That's where the stage sits in some aspects. There's another aspect of this slate, though, that we will talk a little bit about as well. The league's MVP race.
Yeah.
Which, for a while now, people have said is over. It's over. Okay, he's having a great year, but it's so... I don't know, man. I don't know. This is apparently a 3-man race, and 2 of them are going today, and the guy who's the favorite, and it's over, is going to play for a snap, a drive tomorrow in Josh Allen. It's Lamar, and it's Burrow, both on the slate today, Lisi, trying to make an MVP bid.
Yeah, last time Lamar Jackson played against Houston, he throws for $168, 2 touchdowns. He also runs for 73 yards and the scamper to put them up 31-2. And all eyes were on Lamar Jackson as potentially being that dark horse candidate to push Josh Allen. But again, they're 19.5-point favorites today. So if he plays a half, is that going to be enough to get it done or really supersede what Josh Allen does, even if he plays for a series tomorrow and they dominate New England? I think it really comes down to Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow lights it up, this team wins 5 straight. They get potentially into the playoffs. He throws for, let's say, 350, 400. His passing attempts today, Donnie, are 38.5. We've heard that buzz where Joe Burrow is that dark horse that could just steal it from Josh Allen. And if he has a dynamic performance against Pittsburgh, I mean, all eyes will be on Burrow over Lamar, I believe, today.
I don't know. I think the ball certainly still is in Allen's court. But when we say that, the narratives are so much fun to bet around because at the end of the day, you are going to look at the end of the season and say, okay, what was it in its totality? What's the first thing they look at? Not the last game they played. It's the statistics on the season, which, again, would have Josh Allen playing a game where he takes one snap and gets no stats. He's not going to throw any touchdown passes. Not going to rush for any yards. Not going to throw for any yards. And also, to your point here, if you do have non-second half needed for Lamar Jackson, probably had 223 touchdown passes in the first half alone, which is why they're up so big at that point, which would cap off his season. I don't know if Joe Burrow can sneak in even if they get into the playoffs just with that sort of 500 team, but I love narratives and I love them based around Lamar Jackson today because the what-ifs, 275 and 5 touchdowns, say Lamar Jackson. He's going to win the MVP if he does that. I believe that.
So what I will say, though, Donnie, is I think the Lamar aspect is very clean because we know he's in the playoffs, right? No matter what.
Yes.
If he loses the game. But then he would be the 3 seed as well, which is fine, good, and glorious. But sometimes we love a round number. This will be mentioned for me today a few times. But 359 yards for Joe Burrow, that's 5,000, Donnie.
Ooh.
That's 5,000 yards. He also has this record that nobody knew was a record, but all of a sudden of throwing, 3 passing touchdowns and, almost 300 yards in every single game. He has the opportunity. Now, this would be obvious, but if he, I think, has 6 total touchdowns today, that would get to 50 total touchdowns and all. It's like, all right, what is even going on with this whole thing? What is an odd bit of the Burrow candidacy to me is there are some who have said, if he makes the playoffs, he's got to be the guy. And this is where I'm not trying to do a thing, but why I used to get angry about the Jaden Daniels stuff. Going into the Pac-12 championship game, Bo Nix was the favorite to win the Heisman. And then Bo Nix lost, and people were like, knew it was Daniels. But hold on a second. He wasn't playing. I don't get it. The idea that Burrow is the MVP as long as he wins, Bo Nix chokes against Carson Wentz, and Tyler Huntley can't get it done against the Jets. But it feels as if, Lisi, that is a part of this puzzle now, not being 9-8 above 500. Burrow needs a lot of help all of a sudden to win MVP.
He does, but again, he is the most important player of that team, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't be potentially 9-8 without Joe Burrow putting up dynamic numbers. Now, before I say this, I believe Josh Allen will win the MVP. I think he's deserving no matter what he does tomorrow. I think he's led his team to the number 2 overall seed in terms of the conference. He's stepped up from a passing perspective, limited turnovers this year, and I think he's dynamic and deserving of the MVP this year. But if we're talking today, who could potentially steal it out of Lamar and Joe Burrow, I do believe it's Burrow because of his ability to potentially throw for 400 in this game, lead his team to a playoff if everything breaks his way, and the buzz around what you just said, 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and those marquee performances on primetime. We saw him go toe-to-toe how many times with the Ravens and the best teams in the conference. You got to potentially say he's deserving if he could put up those type of numbers.
Look how crazy it is, like the way we actually vote on things, where we're saying, like, if he had a good defense, he'd be the MVP. Yeah. It's not even fair. Like, if we put it in your terms, like, LeBron can't win the MVP because Anthony Davis didn't block enough shots last year. Like, we would never do that here. But that's the way we grade it. If his team made a couple more stops and they were already in the playoffs and he finished with 5,000, there wouldn't even be an argument today on who the MVP was.
I do wonder, though, if both of them have such great days that Josh Allen goes, yeah, man, forget that rest.
Yes.
Forget that rest.
Boy.
We're loading up tomorrow on New England. I'm going for 700 and whatever it may need to be. It begins in Baltimore. And Bailey Zappi's going to be out there. I don't know. This game's got me buzzing and feeling nice and fuzzy. Woo! Let's load it up. We'll take a quick break. We're back here at Pro Football Today.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Lottie Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson. and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here on Pro Football Today. Baltimore and Cleveland, it's a beauty. 19.5 points. I don't want to hear about the total. I don't want to hear about props. We will get to it all. Talk to me about the Baltimore Ravens flirting with a 20-piece here on this spread today. Lisi, I begin with you. It's a big one.
It is, but they covered that big line on the road in MetLife about a few weeks ago against the New York Giants, 16.5. They won that ball game by 20+. Lamar Jackson had a 290-yard performance. You're talking about a team that's 11-5 straight up. They're 5-2 at home. They've won 3 straight games, Kev, by an average margin of victory of 22.5 points per game. They've won their home games by an average margin of victory of 16.2 points per game. On the flip side, you have a dead and buried Cleveland Browns team. They've lost 5 straight by an average margin of defeat, guys, of 14.8 points per game, 0-5 against the number during that span, and 1-7 straight up on the road, okay? And they've lost those 7 games by an average margin of defeat of 12.8 points per game. And we know Bailey Zappi is under center. It was a pathetic performance against the Miami Dolphins last week. That being said, 3 touchdowns last week of the regular season. When you know that this team has already made the playoffs, I understand they need the game. But these are still professional athletes. Bailey Zappi, I think, can chuck it. You got John Kelly, the former Charger, and Tennessee Vol that'll potentially take over the running back duties for Jerome Ford. I think they're live. I mean, again, live from the spread aspect.
Yes,
Cleveland plus 19.5. I do lean to the total, but I'm taking the Browns. I just think it's way too many points in terms of this type of matchup.
It's hard. And again, the line does dictate this because we're not asking you who's going to win this football game. I think it's a formality. We know the Baltimore Ravens can win this and should win this, but we've seen crazier things happen. But that 19.5 indicates that I think we're understanding that the Cleveland Browns know what this game means. They have 3 wins. They're not trying to get the 4 wins. If they were, Jameis Winston would be in here at quarterback, and they'd be spinning it all over the place. They even said this week, like, we're not even going to go with our previous starter. We want to get looks at players. That's quote-unquote for we are tanking this game, but the NFL sees we're getting looks at players, so we're going to be just fine. Also understand how they're going to dictate some of these plays, because I talk about this all the time. The players, they will not tank this football game. But let me understand this. 3rd and 9 from the 39-yard line. Let's draw up something that's going to get us 6-7 yards, maybe a first down. You know what they do now? Hand the football off on a normal zone action play, get 2 yards, and punt the football. Hey, we tried. Didn't want to put our quarterback in a bad situation. Or how about this? You get down inside the 5-yard line. It's 4th and 1. You kick the field goal as opposed to going for the touchdown because you actually want to win this game. That's the way it plays out. If I'm betting this side, do I want to take 19.5 or 20? No. first half will be all you need to see. Because the one thing you do know is the Ravens will be full gas until they don't need to be. And this common misperception, well, they might get rest. How many times you watch an NFL game about 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and those players are still out there? Maybe not aggressive, but they're still playing. So the notion of Lamar is going to be up 21-3 at the half and you won't see him or Derrick Henry in the second half is ridiculous.
I will tell you, when I saw this game, I started to get real excited because I love taking points. It's where I am in my life as a bettor at this moment. There's all developments. I know that. I know that you've talked about, I used to only do sides, and I used to bet only MAC totals, right, and whatever it might be. I love the chance to bet points. My favorite bet of the whole bowl season was the biggest dog of the whole bowl season in Washington State. One of my favorite NFL sides of the year, the Giants against these Ravens. I'm not betting this side, but I'm pretty sure Baltimore covers this number. As ridiculous as that sounds to say about an NFL team, I'm not even sure the number. Like, I want to sit up here, do spread math, and tell you this thing's inflated. I think this number's depressed because they can't hang 21.5 because it's an NFL game. You can't do that. I'm pretty sure they should because one of the reasons is, and maybe I'm shot, I think the roster the Browns are putting out today isn't as good as what the Giants put out that game that I took.
I think you're right.
And I was on the road, mind you. Catch 16.5. I thought it was a good number. I really did. The other thing is we talk about the motivation for Baltimore, and that's one end of it. Baltimore's well rested. That Christmas game was a Wednesday. So that mini bye, Lisi, I love me a good mini bye here. I think the other part of it is, and similar to you, I expect some points in this game. But what's the number the Browns have to score for you to be like, perfect, we got it? I think there's a world Baltimore today touches 40.
40? Oh,
I think they could.
If it's 40, they'll get blown out, and then you're right. Baltimore then covers the number. I would say 27, I think, is the area, but then that leans to the under. I just believe, again, 19.5, I'm willing to take a shot over 2 touchdowns and a field goal in that type of situation. Granted, no Jerome Ford. You're limited in terms of your offensive weapons. They scraped Bailey Zappi off the street, basically. But again, with New England, he was a gamer, right? Now, that was a different scheme that we're going to see today. But still, I still think there's no doubt Baltimore wins. It's just, how do they win? They could be up 24-3. You get a late touchdown in the fourth quarter. You got 24-10, and you get the backdoor swinging wide open. I understand that they looked absolutely pathetic against the Miami Dolphins. That was a game with a backup quarterback. They should have at least been within margin, catching 6.5, especially at home. You got nothing. They were dead to rights from an offensive perspective. But again, that defense isn't all that bad. I know all the starters aren't going to be out there, but I'm still going to take a shot. My best pick in this, and I love totals, is the Browns plus the 19.5.
The tough part about also the gauge is this is the last game of the year for Cleveland. They're on the road. They're already on to next year. They're trying not to win this football game, and as an organization, it makes sense. It's a good business decision. But also understand the business decisions by the players on defense themselves. Outside of Myles Garrett, who wants to hunt sacks, what are we actually playing for here? Like, Denzel Ward's their best defensive back. Like, dude, you're not even coming on the trip this week. So you have legitimately, Joe, 3 cornerbacks ranked in the bottom 100s that are going to line up against this team going full blast, trying to take you out as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I'll just say this. Baltimore 5-2 straight up at home, 4-3 against the number. So not dominant as a home team.
Typically horrendous big favorites.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, there's a reason I'm not on that 19.5, and I've found myself a different direction. I like the over in this game because we're going to get more into just the pure Ravens side of it all, right? I think the Ravens today might want to score 40, but I am still waiting. Where's the Zappy numbers? Let's go. Wake it up. We're here. We're live. We're moving. Wake it up. Where's my Zappy? Could be a gunslinger in this game. I think we've got a QB upgrade week over week for Cleveland. We'll be right back with you right here. It's on SportsGrid.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Lottie Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we're back right here on Pro Football Today. I want to single in now on the Baltimore Ravens. We only have props on the Baltimore Ravens as well. I want to go to Don, I want to go to you first. This is a game, we're talking about fit in the eye frame.
Yes.
There's one market here today you've been real excited about all week. You've been invested for a while. I know you sent it out to the people.
Yes.
Let the people know how you really want to attack this.
Let's have some fun with this one, too, because when you take a look at the Baltimore Ravens, the engine that is Lamar Jackson coming down the stretch, 9 out of 10 football games, multiple touchdown passes. Forget about the yards. Just focus on the touchdown passes, which means those guys are going to be open. The tight ends, the wide receivers, maybe even a back out of the backfield, which Joe loves to pump up today. They're kind of a 7.5 to the over at this point now, probably. But if we are looking at pass catchers, it's there. But understand this as well. You're looking at a Cleveland defense that, quite frankly, throughout the season has really been formidable against the run when they have their full starters. And you say, you know what? They have some decent pieces in that secondary. Maybe they can put it together. Denzel Ward is down today. 3 horrendous guys are going to line up at cornerback where we're in that mode, Kevin. We're probably looking at some practice squads that might be activated. Let's get a look at some of these guys in a situation. Safeties that haven't been all that great. Unless you have Myles Garrett wrecking the entire game plan for the Baltimore Ravens, which they'll game plan for him as well, I just see an air show today. Now, I'm not saying 275 plus out of Lamar Jackson. I look at this game and say the team totals around that 29.5 to 31.5, depending where you're shopping at. That's basically 4 touchdowns. So we're telling me there's going to be 3 rushing touchdowns and 1 passing touchdown. Maybe the old Baltimore Ravens, per se. Not this Baltimore Ravens. Lamar has been shot out of a cannon this year with throwing touchdown passes. That's going to continue today. And also, as we talked about to open the show, the MVP race. You don't think in Baltimore they know how close Lamar Jackson is to being an MVP? Where, yes, they would love to hand off to Derrick Henry, and he could go for 275 and 4 scores. That's a possibility. But when there's a chance to throw a touchdown pass today, John Harbaugh and that team will aim to get it. Because if you finish with 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions today, 210 yards passing, you have a great argument that you have another MVP trophy that's heading with Lamar into the playoffs here.
Yeah. And you look at the playmakers. No total on Derrick Henry receiving on FD.
So it's not coming either.
It's not coming. They got burned last week. So you see Zay Flowers 62.5. You have Bateman at 29.5. Mark Andrews, 33.5. So I like Andrews out of the pass catchers. He had 68 yards last week in regards to the win over Houston. I think he could potentially step up with 70 to 80 yards, even an anytime touchdown. Zay Flowers, hot and cold sometimes. Is this going to be the game where he has 5 catches, 100 yards, or is it going to be the game where he has 4 catches for 50 yards, and it's going to be Bateman going over the top. I would rely on the safety blanket. That's why it's Mark Andrews, especially if we're shocked and maybe Cleveland does come to play from a defensive perspective in the first half. You go short to intermediate, underneath throws. Give me Andrews to start the game.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with how Baltimore wants to play this. Again, so it is incentives week for a lot of people. There were people sending out their spreadsheets that Justice Hill needed 8 receptions. Apparently, they haven't checked the injury report in a while. He's not playing in this game, and I also don't know if they were going to throw 8 dump-off passes to Justice Hill. One, again, maybe it is somewhere in his contract, but Derrick Henry needs about 220, give or take, for 2,000 yards. Now, I'm aware how much 220 yards is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he could run for 220 today if Cleveland is what everybody feels they are. Well, I shouldn't say I'm pretty sure. He could, right? It's on the board. But that's what's so fascinating to me is there was an early part of this season where Henry was the story. He was getting MVP buzz from some people. He was the Offensive Player of the Year favorite or back and forth with Saquon Barkley. Ooh, do you think he's going to score a touchdown every single game? And somewhere along the way, it became the Lamar show. Henry multiple weeks outside of the end zone. If Henry busted a big run inside the 15, Lamar's like, you're probably tired, huh? Don't worry, I'll take it from here. Throws a touchdown pass. And that's why I'm not loaded up on any type of Derrick Henry numbers within this game. Doesn't mean I don't think he can get through them, but it does, Donnie, feel to me the story for the Ravens is, once again, Lamar Jackson more so than anybody else.
Correct, but you are right on that 220. This is one of those where he's on the first drive and hits a 65-yarder. Everybody pipes up and goes, you know what? We owe it to him to try to get after 2,000 because that's a pretty big deal at that point. But even from my aspect of from Derrick Henry to Lamar Jackson, he can go all the way down the field. I'm only hunting touchdown passes for Lamar. And also keep in mind, if they are up 3 touchdowns, are we feeding Derrick Henry into the fourth quarter? No, we're not doing that. But the same thing with Lamar Jackson passing yards, which is why you see some of these wide receivers and tight ends for Baltimore. Like, ooh, that seems real low because a lot of people are factoring on a double-digit lead by the break. So how many times do you actually have to pass outside of third down?
Yeah, 89.5 is his rushing total for Derrick Henry. He blows through that last week with 147. Last time he was up in this, he went under it with the New York Giants, so just tread lightly.
Henry would be the first player ever to run for 2,000 multiple times in an NFL career. We go to Bengals Steelers next.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Bloody Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we're back with you right here on Pro Football Today. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's just kind of take a second with this game here. We got a lot of time to expand on it. The number is currently 2.5. The oddity of this game, I know some people took a little bit of issue with the NFL schedule approach because the notion for some when they saw the schedule was Baltimore wins, Pittsburgh rests, which would be an advantage for Pittsburgh. No, because, the NFL always tries to line things up. But there's plenty to argue that Pittsburgh will not rest. Pittsburgh will come out guns blazing here. A loss for the Steelers would mean that the Chargers would be a win away from jumping them for the 5th seed. A win for the Steelers would seed lock them into the 5. So, and of course, the difference between the projected situation is the 5th seed will get you the Texans, the 6th seed will get you the Baltimore Ravens. Donnie, I know you're a proponent of rest if you can get it. How do you feel about Pittsburgh and what their effort level should be, assuming the division isn't on the line when they play tonight?
You have to get the 5th seed. It's almost automatic. And also, maybe it's a little bit different if Pittsburgh's playing okay football down the stretch, played a couple quality teams, didn't play all that well. You can't be on your home football field a week before the playoffs going in on a skid where you're not playing well, and particularly if you lose to the Bengals and they put up 45 points and you just can't trail them here. So let's get that one out of the way. But for me, you have to look down the road so many times with your football team. It's why I get mad at Detroit. Donnie's just a Detroit hater. No, Donnie's the only guy that, that was backing Detroit the entire season with tickets behind it, who I hope gets to the NFC Championship game and wins it. But I didn't think Detroit did themselves any favors last week on what they can actually do in the playoffs. Pittsburgh can do that today, Joe. And some people say, well, why don't you rest? You're already in your best chances to be fully healthy. But when you look at who you're going to play, you don't want to necessarily avoid teams in the NFL because sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. But if you're telling us that you can play Baltimore on the road next week or you could play Houston on the road next week, it's clear, cut, and simple. If you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, you got to play in this game because you need that 5th seed. And also, you control your own seeding. As Kevin brought up, Harbaugh already answered the question. We'd love the 5th seed. They lose to, or Pittsburgh wins today, they don't get it. He's resting his players, not I'm old school Harbaugh and I want to play my entire starters all the way through, Joe. So it does matter. And for me, that's why I think you're going to get the best effort out of the Steelers without having to worry in the back of your mind, are they going to pull anybody?
And think about where the Steelers have been. They've lost 3 straight games, to Donnie's point. They've lost those games by an average margin of defeat of 16.6 points per game. So they haven't even really been all that competitive down the stretch. You lose this game, you limp into the playoffs losing 4 straight. And on the flip side, for Cincinnati, they're a hot football team, right? They've won 4 straight games by an average margin of victory of 10.2 points per game. Battle-tested on the road, 5-3 straight up. They've won those 5 games by an average margin of victory of 8.8 points per game. And right now they have the more consistent offense and more consistent quarterback heading into this ballgame. What do we talk about Russell Wilson? Since that 414-yard performance, he's basically averaged around 173 passing yards per game over the last 3 or 4 weeks. You cannot have that going up against Joe Burrow, and more importantly, cannot have that going in to any type of playoff situation. Whether you play C.J. Stroud, whether you play Lamar Jackson, it doesn't matter. Your offense needs to find continuity heading into this game. So I think you get Pittsburgh's best effort today.
It's very tough because I do think rest is paramount. And look, no doubt about it, the number for Pittsburgh will look way different depending on where they go, right? You're talking probably over a touchdown at this point with the way the Ravens are playing, if that's where you're going. With the way the Texans are right now, field goal or less, maybe under that field goal for some if you're in on Pittsburgh. The only thing that maybe I would argue the other side is typically they have a way to take the Ravens and say, come on, get down here. This is our level now. It's very odd because it's way more of a college thing where it's like, listen, this is a rivalry, the old cliche, throw the records out. I don't think there's any equivalent in the NFL to what the Ravens and the Steelers are. Like, people always try and, it's the whole AFC North. Not really. I don't know. The Steelers play the Bengals, we get 700 points in one of those games, right? Like, if a game between the Steelers and Ravens ever looks like that, I think my head would spin. If you told me, hey, man, Mike Tomlin's going to get a full week of preparation, and he's going to go into Baltimore, I'd certainly be tempted to grab the number, right? It's such an interesting thing because you also have a Charger team who, by no means is a lock to win their football game necessarily. The Raiders can't help themselves but win every week now that their season's officially over here. I think it's I think it's an interesting spot as well, because whether Pittsburgh goes for it or not going to be favorites.
Yeah.
Right.
Because of what Cincinnati needs now, and that becomes very, very interesting here. When we talk about this side, what I would say is, because I expect Pittsburgh to give it their all, the Ravens are eliminated. I feel as if more bets will come in on Cincinnati. I think the number on Pittsburgh is good. I just want it to be great, Donnie.
Yeah.
If you can get 3.5 by some chance, that's when I'd be more interested in betting Pittsburgh.
Also, you have to understand, Cincinnati going on the road, one of the worst defenses in the NFL. We understand that, but also we know that Pittsburgh hasn't played that great. But to Kevin's point, it does make some sense because the general thought is going to be like, okay, now the Steelers don't have anything to play for, when I think their mindset all week already is a foregone conclusion. That might be different, Joe. You take a look at Cleveland, brings their A team, and they're just outside of the playoffs, and this line is 6.5. Yeah, there's a little bit more ammo and a little bit more deflation once you get to that second game. Like, oh, man, that was our real chance to maybe win this. I don't think they're looking at this game going, it's a 20-point line and anything can happen. Yes, but they know deep down they're probably not going to get there. But for me, from Cincinnati, too, T. Higgins coming in this game, probably the last football game he's going to play for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's already banged up. Does he want to get hurt even worse? I'm not saying T. Higgins is going to play because he played this entire year. And also Chase Brown, who's been a very good running back, limping, might not even play in this ball game. That's a key cog here. So if you're down a couple weapons for Cincinnati with a bad defense on the road against a team with the Steelers that's going to be bringing a lot of heat from that front seven, this is going to get interesting today.
It is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Game flow is going to be interesting as well, because I bring that up because obviously last time they got into the 70s, right, dead over. You saw Denver in a similar situation on the road in Cincinnati with their playoff implications on the line. They try to drag Cincinnati into a lower scoring game, and they did that for basically, 3.5 quarters before the final 8 minutes, and it sails through the total. Does Pittsburgh try and get back to old school type of football and say we want to run the football, want to work off of play action, or do they allow Russell Wilson and that offense to exploit the secondary the way they did in terms of the first meeting? I am curious to see how this offense plays out. They try to get into a lower scoring game against Kansas City, couldn't do it, right? They struggled with Philadelphia as well in a similar type of situation. They got worn down and allowed that game to slip in the final 10 minutes as well. 10-minute drive by the Eagles, right? That defense couldn't make a stand. Do they go more blue collar, and does that lean to the under? I actually like Cincinnati just because I believe in Burrow more than I believe in Russ in terms of this game. Sure. But I am intrigued in regards to the actual game flow, how this dictates props and everything else.
Yeah, I think it is incredibly fascinating. And, I look at Cincinnati. To me, we've talked about this a little, excuse me, but that game against Denver, right? I think what you can tell is if the Bengals are on your TV, you're going to get a good game, right? But the result is not going to break their way enough times in order for this team to go on a real run, even if they get in. And again, they obviously do need a lot of help to get in because they are so shaky on the defensive side of the football, or there's just moments where, look, the offense is not averaging 45 points a game, right? Like there are games, the game against the Chargers that they lost, right? The offense didn't show up until the second half. Now it showed up, and it was at the end of it, it was amazing. I'm not trying to sit here and cast more blame on the offense. It isn't blameless, though. I will tell you that. It is not blameless. And you mentioned the health of it all, Donnie. Chase Brown has been incredible since taking over this backfield tier.
And you see how he got hurt, too? It wasn't even like it was like, hey, going down where you don't know how to slide and you bust that ankle up at the worst time.
And T. Higgins not being 100%. I mean, listen, T. Higgins, I know you don't love jersey retirements. I'm pretty sure even if he leaves in free agency, they should retire his jersey for the effort level that he has given them this season, despite the way the offseason has played out there ultimately. Maybe this is the last go-around, and does that maybe add a couple of extra incentives into the game? We'll talk about it all. We continue to break down the AFC North battle tonight. Next.
They let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber. White Chocolate, Vlade Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back right here. It is Pro Football Today. I think tomorrow's going to be a good one.
It is.
There's a lot of
Best week of the
knuckleheaded
year.
games out there, man. Today has some interesting elements to it as well between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. We've talked a little bit about the side in this game. This game, you have a much clearer prop menu, though, which is nice. And probably my favorite prop on the board today is going to come from this one. George Pickens for a 30-plus yard reception. He's hit this in every single game with Russ as his quarterback. To me, I don't – listen, I know everybody loves their incentives. I like to try and make my own because I just don't feel like jumping on the incentive train if I can avoid it. Pickens needs 100 yards for a 1,000-yard season. I just imagine that matters to guys. And I also think that you look at George Pickens going up against his Cincinnati defense, and he probably sees food, quite frankly, there. I think George Pickens is in for a good day, but I think that means he does what he always does and connects on a deep shot with Russell Wilson, Joe.
Yeah, it's a great look. I love him over the 67.5. First game that they played, he wasn't really that much of a factor. It was the secondary wide receivers that got involved. And Russ, even though Pickens ate in that matchup, didn't eat like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the other side. So I'm expecting them to step up. Playing at home. Also like Najee Harris in regards to the screen game. 7.5 is his receiving total in this matchup. Yeah. I think he has life. On Cincinnati's side, Gesicki, 29.5. He's coming off a performance, 12 targets. I believe he had 10 receptions for 86 yards last week against Denver. I know Higgins is the main target along with Chase, but give me Gesicki to potentially get 40 or 50 plus, Donnie.
Yeah, and also sack prop-wise, if you're looking from that direction for the Steelers, I don't think you can go wrong with a couple players because the one thing we know about Cincinnati, if Chase Brown isn't healthy in this football game, he's not getting 20 carries. You're not just going to hand that off to the backup running backs, maybe even more passing for Joe Burrow. But if we do focus on the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think you're right on the longest catch and also, Joe, the usage rate for George Pickens. These aren't X's and O's. We haven't played good football. My best wide receiver is furious at this football team. So what do we do in this game? 2 targets, 21 yards, and he maybe doesn't even show up next week in the playoffs. You need to get him going, which means he will be a catalyst for that offense, which I love. Now, counterpoint for me at the running back position for the Steelers, I love Jaylen Warren. It's apparent, and you started to see it last year. Sometimes Jaylen Warren gets nicked up a little bit, and Najee Harris is always there. Pittsburgh Steelers mentality, give it to the big guy, give it to him a lot. But at the same time, you're watching the evolution of Jaylen Warren as the more explosive back. And you're going up against a bad defense, but also a good offense, which means if you're going back in a shootout today, and I don't mean 35-35 in the fourth quarter, but each team moving the football, Warren's going to get those extra possessions and extra chances to run the football. I like him going over 39.5 yards today, and also as a pass catcher himself, I believe it's back-to-back weeks, 5 catches, because they're in games that they're not winning or not ahead where Najee would get get to 16, 17, or 18 carries. It's a fun game to try to handicap, but I agree on a lot of spots here with Pittsburgh. That's a bad defense. You need to get going. It starts with Pickens, and it ends with the running backs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see, though, if you are Pittsburgh. Again, the win is there any usage management at all in this football game? That's why I backed off the running backs. I think you make great points, Donnie, but that kind of confused things a little bit. On the running back position, just if we do get Chase Brown out, which, by the way, looked at SixScore.com, certainly I don't think those guys, if I'm reading correctly, I don't want to speak on their behalf, but if I'm reading correctly, they don't seem to think Chase Brown's going to be playing in this one here. Full gas, Khalil Herbert? I mean, can the number books most often feel confident hanging is the touchdown price because there isn't a no, so they can't kind of get wrapped around on it. So the Chase Brown number's up there, plus 120. They put the Herbert number up at the same exact price, Donnie. Do you think Khalil Herbert is just kind of copy-paste style for Chase Brown?
Yes, I do, because, again, we're not functioning on how many carries will he get in the football game. You know you have to throw the football a lot.
Yeah.
That's the way you beat the Steelers. But understand this, 3rd and goal from the 1, Joe Burrow is probably not going to quarterback sneak that in. Yeah. You're going to be handing that football off, and it's going to be Khalil Herbert. Because, by the way, pretty good short-distance running back in Chicago as well, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, Khalil Herbert played in Chicago, cold weather. Mm-hmm. He's very good coming out of the backfield as well in terms of catching the football, screen game. Could duplicate what Chase Brown has done. A little bit slower than Chase Brown, so you're not going to get those chunk type of plays. Yep. It takes more time to develop. But, again, they haven't tacked a number on him. If he's in the area of, let's say, 44.5, 50, that might be a pretty good look.
Yeah, I'm curious to see with the way Chase Brown was used in the receiving game as well. Is that something that Khalil Herbert can replicate? Because, and you want to project way out? Well, what if we're breaking down a playoff game? No Chase Brown. We have to handle Khalil Herbert props. It becomes very interesting here. Jamar Chase, by the way, the hunt for that Triple Crown. People have wondered a little bit if not playing in Week 18 is going to bang up Josh Allen. Just curious, Donnie, is there a world where not playing in Week 18 opens the door for Jamar Chase in the Offensive Player of the Year race over Saquon Barkley?
I don't think so. And again, but what have you done for me lately sometimes does creep in, which is the same way we're talking about Lamar Jackson. If he throws for 6 touchdowns and 350 today, he's probably going to win it because, oh, my goodness, look at that performance that catapults you. So if we do have a meaningful game, which we will for Cincinnati, and let's just say it's 9 for 215 and 3 touchdowns, could, but I don't think so. I also think now Saquon might be getting a little bit of the sympathy vote, too. Didn't let him get it. You got to hand him something because he couldn't get his 2,100. Because if he wanted to get it, he would have gotten it. They didn't let him get it. Let's give it to him.
I want people are just going to hate Sirianni forever, huh?
Love him. Stepped up.
We'll get it.
He went up a full peg in my book.
I've been trying to see if there are any incentives history-wise for Chase, because not that they're talking. I know the goal is win, but everybody knows what's up. Reception-wise, he's nowhere near the top. Yardage-wise, I mean, he has 16 touchdowns. You think we want to get him around 20, Joe?
I mean, 20 would be a great number. Four touchdowns.
Right? They'll probably deactivate him today.
Exactly.
I could see him stepping up. I mean, again, 93.5 is his total today. 125, 150. Put it this way.
Yeah.
He doesn't come near his total. I don't think Cincinnati's winning this game.
Here's the problem with that, too. He's going to dominate today, but Porter's going to tackle him on multiple deep routes where he's wide open and you get no yards out of it, but you just get the penalty yards. I'm telling you, watch out for that today.
The only thing I'll throw out there, again, it's relatively speaking, but 18 total receiving touchdowns would tie him for third, with a few guys, Devontae Adams being one of them. There's only 2 guys ever that have 20 or more in a season, which is Randy Moss and Jerry Rice. I know that is 4 receiving touchdowns. I understand Cincinnati's goal is to win the football game. I'm just saying, if he has 2 in the first half, and you're wondering, just look again.
Contract here.
T. Higgins, he gave T. Higgins everything he needed. It feels like last week, but then again, let's keep things moving here. We're live with you on Pro Football Today. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi.
As the candles flicker, a new tradition shines. 8 nights of Hanukkah, 8 nights of winning insights.
Like, they may come out slow, so you might be able to get a better number. Wow, they're favored.
With SportsGrid, every night is another chance to win.
No pick sixes today, they cover.
So let's crunch it up. Let's make it happen. Let's give you our favorite props.
Let your Hanukkah winnings brighten your celebrations. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this bet than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go here.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans, bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
All right, we are back with you right here on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh, and it is Pro Football Today. It is time for some Sports Millions Pick'em here, where we try and get involved with you and the Week 18 NFL slate on this Saturday. Obviously, two fun games, yet the first much trickier to try and figure out with the Cleveland Browns not having anything when we talk about, a clean flow here. Not only Bailey Zappi getting his first start, but I'm not sure Bailey Zappi even knows anybody on the football team in Cleveland here. One thing that we do know is Derrick Henry is going to be out there for the Baltimore Ravens in this football game. And we've talked about, history. We've talked about Saquon Barkley throughout the season. Well, Derrick Henry could very well get himself some history. It's only going to cost him about 225 yards, though. Derrick Henry's best games do typically come, Donnie, when we talk about Week 18. Is there a world where this team thinks, hey, maybe 2,000 yards for Derrick Henry this season?
It's a big number. It really is. But it's one of those where you play it by ear. If you are going to get close to that number, you owe it to the player to get it. Now, granted, getting close does not mean 101 yards in a meaningless football game. Getting close means I have 101 yards in the first half, and I think I can get it by the end of the third quarter. But also understand this. The goal of the Baltimore Ravens is not to get 2,000 yards for Derrick Henry today. It's to win a Super Bowl and Derrick Henry full blast by the time the playoffs start. But having said that, I look at this game and say, you give me one carry, 65 yards on the first drive of the game, now you got a party.
It'll be very interesting to see because there's a lot of history that could potentially be on the line today. But Derrick Henry going higher than 91.5 rushing yards, which is the first entry for me on Sports Millions Pick'em, is not something that, again, necessarily you need history for. That for Henry at times, Lisi, is a low bar, and certainly the last two games, he has been well higher than 91.5.
Yeah, on Christmas Day, 147 yards, multiple touches in the first half, and typically when he does hit that number over 100 yards, he's definitely running the football in the first half of the matchup. So I think higher is a very good look in regards to today's matchup. They're going to feed him early. They're going to feed him often, look to build that first half lead. And if they could get this game, let's say 14 points, 21 points in terms of a lead in the second half, they might rest him. But 89, 90 yards in the first half, I think is very doable.
Just also one quick other question before we get to some Sports Millions pick'em options between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Is there a world, Donnie, if all of a sudden Derrick Henry does run for 2,000? Could that, again, I know it's a huge number, but could that muddy the water at all on the Saquon season?
No. I don't think it does, because you're also under the same opportunity that Saquon is going to sit this week out, and if he did play against the Giants, he'd be going well above 100 yards, getting that total, and then setting the all-time record. I don't think this is a knock at all on Saquon where he can lose anything in the awards race.
And I also think that at the moment, Saquon is right or wrong, viewed as the MVP of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's how people view it on the season. I think that there are about 7-8 guys you could maybe make the argument, it feels like, and 2 of them play on the offensive line. But I think that potentially will keep Saquon's path very clear, as opposed to Derrick Henry with Lamar, Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow. And speaking of Joe Burrow, on Sports Millions Pick'em, higher than 281.5 passing yards. Joe Burrow throws for 400 against Denver. We know that in the biggest games, Joe Burrow is going to step up, and I fully expect Joe Burrow to do just that here today against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, we talk about benchmarks for Derrick Henry. 359 yards is what Joe Burrow needs to throw for 5,000. I'm not telling you that priority one for Joe Burrow is throwing for 5,000. But typically, in order for Cincinnati to do anything anyway, he's got to throw for about 320, Joe. I expect more of the same from Joe Burrow.
And with the injury to Chase Brown, it's going to be more on Joe Burrow to step up. And the last time that they played Pittsburgh, he throws for 307, 308 yards. They're going to need him to be higher than 283.5 today to actually win the game. I don't think he can throw for 200 and they win a lower scoring game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and potentially then opening up some other options on Sports Millions pick 'em around Jamar Chase or even T. Higgins. You want to go lower level, Yosavash. All of those are out there. But again, some Sports Millions pick 'em for you here on this Saturday morning with Joe Burrow and Derrick Henry. We'll talk about the NFL's MVP race next on Pro Football Today.
As the candles flicker, a new tradition shines. 8 nights of Hanukkah, 8 nights of winning insights.
Like, they may come out slow, so you might be able to get a better number. Wow, they're favored.
With SportsGrid, every night is another chance to win.
No pick sixes today, they cover.
So let's crunch it up. Let's make it happen. Let's give you our favorite props.
Let your Hanukkah winnings brighten your celebrations. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all. It's
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take. By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans bound by passion. each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.